I'm first? What?
Go, dude. Go, go, go. Wow, what a dick. What is going on, guys? Team from Merc Films here, back again with another video. I know it's been a little bit, it's been a while. I've been in the middle of a move and just been busy with that. My last video was in the Horizon 3 build video, the full tuned episode. If you guys haven't seen that, be sure to go check that out. In this video, we're going to be talking about the new release. It's been out for about a week or two now. It's Forza Horizon 4. I played it with early access, and I've been playing it for a while. The reason I haven't made this video in a while, like I said, one is for the move, but the main reason is because I wanted to get a good amount of hours into it during the early release and play a little bit during the full release when everyone was able to play, and kind of get an impression after the game's been out for a while, if they haven't any patches, you know, stuff like that. I wanted to go over it, experience it, and then talk about it in this video. So this video is going to be kind of like a review slash first impressions type of video, going into detail on some of the things that are good with the game, some things that bothered me, and maybe a few other people as well who have gotten the game. I'm hoping that this video will give you a good idea of whether or not maybe the game is for you, or if it isn't for you, or if, you know, maybe it will justify or not justify the $60 price tag for the actual game. So coming from Forza Horizon 3, which was at release was relatively fun on like the first couple of days where we played it, but after you get, you know, a few hours into it, it got stale. The landscape was kind of dull, not much character in the game. It felt just sandboxy. It didn't feel like there's any, I didn't feel like I was in Australia by any means. I felt like I was just in a open world with a few roads and a bunch of countryside hills. But going into Horizon 4 here, I feel like Horizon 4 is what Horizon 3 should have been, and we'll get into that some further in the video, but that's basically my initial consensus, that this game is what Horizon 3 should have been, in my opinion. Now, is a game worth getting? Yes and no. That's, you know, I'm gonna leave that up to you guys if you want to get the game or not. The game has a good amount of content. Although we have a lot of content, we have lost what we used to have in the past. And we'll get into that in a second, but just keep that in mind, like the car list and stuff. Although we have more cars, we lost some of the cars we had in previous titles. Not sure what happened there. Might have been a licensing issue or whatever. And a few other capabilities in the game have also been lost. But alongside that, a lot of things have been added, and there's a good amount of content in the game itself. So let's get to it. To start us off, I want to talk about the visual improvements. The game is visually appealing. It's not the biggest difference from the previous Forza titles, but it is noticeable. It looks better. It looks significantly, it looks pretty decent now. The game seems to be running on the same engine, but feels like they unlocked more, maybe more of the settings, more of the graphical rendering capabilities have been unlocked with the engine. I'm not too sure, but it just looks visually a little better. The environment quality and detail, it looks way more lived in. It looks like there's a lot more going on. The textures and stuff seem to have a little more detail than they did in the past, like as far from the physics effects and like the special effects to the destruction effects to the actual world space seems to be visually a lot more appealing now, and it looks like they're able to put a lot more clutter and loose objects into the world space this time around to add more character to the world, whereas Horizon 3 felt kind of dead and boring with not much characteristic to it. It seems like Forza Horizon 4 has a lot of character to the map and not too much dead space. It seems very lived in. And the other noticeable things, like, is not the car quality itself is about the same as before on all the cars, but like the reflection and stuff coming off the paint and the lighting effects coming off the car itself just seems so much better now. Like the reflection quality, the cars just look so much cleaner, so much nicer than it did in the previous Horizon game. The other big change in this game is the UI. It looks good. It's a lot, like the colors and stuff are so much nicer, and the layout looks better at first glance, but does get a little messy. When I was playing for the first time, I was having a harder time navigating the menus, trying to find where some of the icons are, how to tune my car. I was having a hard time trying to find certain buttons throughout the menu, where, you know, because there's so much more going on in this game. There's a lot of, you know, like what's new with this season, and there's, you know, the map, and then there's settings, and then within the settings there's a bunch of other options. It's a little crazy. It got a little overwhelming, but once you got used to it, it wasn't that bad. And other dilemma I've noticed is there's a lot of dead time, a lot of loading screen stuff going on, a lot of loading moments, and they seem to take a little longer. Maybe with if you're on PC, maybe a SSD hard drive would fix the problem. But I noticed a little bit of not like Fallout or Skyrim long type of loading times, but the loading screens were pretty long. Not only that, but you couldn't, after a race, you couldn't skip a lot of the end game screens. Like, it will tell you how much credits you got, if you got a wheel spin, where you are in the standings and stuff like that. All that comes up, but you can't skip. The only thing you can skip is like the scene where it shows off who the winner is, and they're doing their little emote. You can skip that, and then, like, you know, wherever you place, you can skip that. But that's about it. You have to actually wait for all the animations to go through for the rest of the end game, end round screens. And then going back to the UI, the UI just is overall a lot more appealing to look at. It's a lot nicer to look at. It's more eye candy, if you will. And the UI uses a lot better colors than before, I think, in my opinion. A lot nicer colors, a lot more. It draws my attention a little better in this one, in my opinion. And the other biggest problem with the UI is that you can't leave in between online adventure championships. So let's say you go into an online adventure, and you're in the adventure, you're already doing races, and you can leave mid-game. There's no problem. You can hit the pause button, exit to Horizon Solo or Horizon Free Roam or whatever, no problem. But when you're in between, when you finish at an online adventure championship, when you're about to start the next one, you can't leave until you're in the race.
Right? I think all three of us are just like,
right,
money's.
I bought it because you want to do the S1 racing.
No. I'm just. How do I get out of this? Basically, you have to wait for the loading screen to go away, and then you have to choose your car. You have to wait for all the players to get ready, and then you have to wait for the timer to come down, and then the loading screen goes away, and then once you're in the race, then you can leave, which I think is kind of dumb. I think you should be able to leave in between online adventure championships so that you don't have all these people, as soon as the race starts, you don't have all these people leaving the game, which seems to be kind of a problem. Now, as far as the optimization goes, well, for me, I'm on PC. For those of you on Xbox, I'm sure it runs very, very well. But on PC, this time around, from release, it seems to be very optimized. I have a solid frame rate. I never drop below about 80, 90 FPS. I do play with VSync on in this case so that the stream looks smoother without any screen tearing. But without it, I'm able to run anywhere between 80 and 100 FPS consistent at max settings. And it seems to be running very well, minus some of the minor glitches and bugs this game does have concerning different control schemes and stuff like that. I will get into that in just a second. Now, before I do, one of the biggest things about Forza Horizon series is the map. The map, now it feels and looks smaller compared to Horizon 3, but there are a lot more roads. It seems to be a lot more roads going through this smaller space, so you have less of these like open area with nothing going on, a little bit of trees, a bunch of hills, and you just do a lot of cross-country stuff. It still has that, but there's more roads going throughout the map, so it feels like there's a lot more to do on this map, a lot more places to go compared to the last map where it was mostly just open, dead areas. You know, not much going on in a lot of places. But this, although it looks and feels smaller, there seems to be a lot more places to go. That's what I'm feeling right now. But that being said, it is still lacking a lot of the tight, twisty stuff like we had in Horizon 2. You know, the coastal road that was a little narrowish. You know, that 2-lane road is still missing a lot of that, kind of like Horizon 3. But it does have a lot more interesting roads compared to Horizon 3 for sure. I think this is a step in the right direction. And like I was saying earlier, the environment feels way more lived in, a lot busier than Horizon. Not necessarily like in traffic sense, but look, you know, there's like street traffic cones, there's a lot more like signs and like guardrails and like objects, barriers and stuff placed throughout the map. And then when you go through cities, there's a lot of like cobblestone walls with like furniture, outdoor furniture and stuff. It just looks a lot more lived in, and it seems to have a lot more character than Horizon 3 did with their object placement in their world. The environment just feels a lot nicer and feels like people are actually living there compared to Horizon 3. The destructible cobblestone walls make for a great alternative to solid walls, in my opinion. If you guys haven't played the game yet, I'm sure you've seen people play the game, or maybe in like a trailer or something, you'll see cars drive through these cobblestone walls. It seems like that's like the alternative to a lot of the solid guardrails and walls we had in the past. It's a great way because in races people usually use the wall to slow down the car, or to take a turn faster, to ride the wall and go faster and cut people off and stuff like that. But these cobblestone walls, although you could break through them, if you hit them too long, it actually slows down your car immensely compared to the solid walls. And because it slows down and punishes drivers for cutting and not staying on the path, I think it makes for a better experience as far as like multiplayer and races go. I know it can be frustrating when you're like stuck on the wall, but I think it's a good alternative to the solid walls where people were able to ride them or use them as basically braking zones. And this time around, like in the previous Horizon, we were able to fast travel wherever we wanted to go, but it seems like this one you're limited to fast traveling to like your house and the Horizon Festival. There's one Horizon Festival, and then you could buy houses throughout the map. And you can only fast travel to those. I'm not sure if you unlock an ability to fast travel wherever you want, but I haven't been able to fast travel wherever I want freely. I've had to fast travel either to the festival site or to one of my houses. And frankly, it's not that big of a deal. Traveling in this map, just driving around this map is actually fun because the scenery is just so much nicer. Maybe that's because the game just came out, but just visually everything is nice. It's fun to explore, and I don't mind that little bit of a drive to go to each destination that I need to be at. And as you guys know, this game did add the seasons function, where you have 4 seasons. You have, summer, autumn, winter, spring, stuff like that. It's interesting, but it's rather more gimmicky. But the biggest transition from seasons you're going to see is like, summer or autumn, and when you go into winter. The difference between winter and all the other seasons are the biggest one, because driving in snow is completely different from driving in the dry or the wet. It has its own little character to it. It's kind of like if you've played Blizzard Mountain DLC from when Horizon 3 was still big and popular. When that DLC came out, you'll kind of know what the snow physics feel like, but it seems to be done a lot better in this iteration. The winter and the snow and the ice on the ground just seems a lot cooler. But at the end of the day, the seasons thing is just interesting. It's just kind of a cool gimmick. It's a nice change of scenery as the seasons go by. And with that being said, what I'm trying to get at is the map, although smaller and a little less going on, less is more in this case. It seems like there's a lot more happening in this smaller space, a lot more to do, a lot more to see, and it's just a lot. It has a lot more character, and it's just a very beautiful map, to say the least. And getting into, I want to go into the physics, of course. Forza physics have kind of been the same over the board since Forza 6, I think, Forza Motorsport 6, and the car driving physics feel the same as the previous title, but it has a better terrain feeling. The physics in regards from the contact you have between the car and the ground, that itself feels good. The cars and stuff control the same, but when you go on tarmac, the tarmac feels better, the dirt feels better, the mud feels better, the ice, just the communication between the ground and the car just feels a little better in this game. It seems to be improved somewhat. You get a better feel of what's happening underneath the car compared to the previous titles, especially comparing to Forza Horizon 3. And as always, the Forza titles have always been kind of a mix between sim and arcades. It's a simcade game, and honestly, it's a good mix. It's satisfying to drive, it's fun, it's a good time. And then going into wheel support, at least on PC, I use the Logitech G27 wheel. The force feedback just feels off. It never felt great compared to the other titles like Project Cars 2, Assetto Corsa, of course, R Factor, Dirt Rally, even Dirt 3. I think the wheel overall, the force feedback just felt nicer in those games. Whereas in this game, the G27 just always kind of feels off and doesn't feel right. And I ended up spending so much time just to set up the G27, whereas I just plug in the G27 in other games and it just kind of works. Whereas this game, I had to spend I had to spend too much time setting up a wheel just to maybe enjoy it, and it still doesn't feel quite right. There's like a soft block. Hold on. Yeah, there's a soft block. I need to fix it. Huh? Hello? No. Yeah,
I don't want to.
What the heck? That being said, now this game is amazing on controller. If the controller physics feels like they got something right. They did something right here. It feels on point. It feels really good. It feels very competitive. In fact, I think wheel users will fall a little bit behind the controller users who are very good on controller. And that's just because the two setups have different advantages. Although you're able to make the smaller adjustments on the wheel, the controller support is so good on this game that it's almost like, it almost feels like the controller is better than the wheel in my experience, at least with the G27 comparing to the Xbox controller. Now I have a few friends who run the G29, the G920 Logitech wheels, and they say they have similar problems like I am having with the G27 in regards to force feedback and the physics, how they feel. Now in the difficulty settings, you do have an option between normal steering setup and the sim steering setup, and as like in any other title, the sim steering still feels twitchy to me. It feels too reactive. It's too much going on with very little input. It just doesn't feel right. It's supposed to be an unfiltered steering mode where you know your force feedback doesn't have any filters on it, nothing's really supporting you, but it just feels extremely twitchy, almost impossible to drive in my opinion. I know some people prefer sim steering, but for me, it's just not for me. It just feels too reactive for me. Other bugs with the wheel I found when it comes to binding certain buttons with the wheel, especially with a second controller. In my case, I have a flight stick that I use for a handbrake. And when I bind it to my handbrake, when I hit save, and then when I exit the menu and go back into the menu and go to my controls, it's not bound anymore. My handbrake isn't my handbrake anymore. It goes back to being unbound, and I have to bound a button that it works. And there's a few other controls that will be forgotten too in the same regard. Like I try to put one of my wheel buttons to be handbrake, and it turns out that button is bound to photo mode, but photo mode in my settings isn't bound to anything, which is really weird. So I'm not too sure. Hopefully a patch soon will fix this problem. This is everything. All this is on my end. Maybe other people have better luck, but this is what I've experienced since I've been playing this game with the G27 and the Xbox controller. Other problems I have noticed is inconsistent hitboxes and physics. Like when you would hit a tree, sometimes like your mirror will hit the tree and it'll bring your car to a complete stop, where your hitboxes will be ever so slightly past your front bumper. It's really weird. And then, you know, sometimes you'll hit a tree and still maintain full speed. You'll just kind of, you know, ping off of it. And other times you'll hit it and come to a dead stop. It's never consistent. It's just, you would think if you like kind of clip a tree, you'll just kind of ping off of it and then keep going. But in this, sometimes if you clip a tree, it will bring you to a complete stop or slow your car down immensely. It's not a good time. Now that being said, the driving is nice overall. It's satisfying. It's fun in the game. It's fun to drive. It's great. It's a good time. And it's just a nice experience when you're driving and you do something. It's just a satisfying feeling you get in this game. Whereas some games you feel a disconnect, like Need for Speed and games like that. It's not satisfying to drive. But in this game, it's great. It's fun to drive the cars in this game, and like I said, and every car has their own character. It's a good time. It's a lot of fun. Now, as far as racing goes, solo racing can get boring when you're racing by yourself against like drivatars and AI. The drivatars, AI are a little dumb. Sometimes they're dull, and occasionally they just rubber band and like beat you in every situation. It's really weird. I play on pro difficulty, right below the unbeatable difficulty. Unbeatable seems a little ridiculous. You always start towards the back of the grid, and this has always been a problem with Forza games where you start towards the back. You can't qualify to get a better position on the starting grid, so you're always stuck starting from the back. You have to make your way up, which honestly makes for a fun, challenging race. But what happens is you come across these really dumb AI that don't know how to drive, and sometimes they get really aggressive with you. They crash into you constantly, they spin you out, they push you out of the way. More so than they need to. You know, rubbing is racing, but these guys are just straight up trying to kill you sometimes, and occasionally they're just overpowered, in my opinion. That being said, online adventure, when you play with multiple people, when you go into the multiplayer, it's fun. It's a good time. I think that's the biggest strong suit of this game, is you're able to go into the online mode, do a online adventure championship, and get into a game with a bunch of other people with your own car that you built, matched to that class, the S1, S2, A class, whatever, and it's a lot of fun. It's a good time, but like in the previous Forza titles, the multiplayer does have their problems. You know, griefers, people crashing into each other, and problems like that'll always be there unless Forza, the guys that Turn 10 or Playground Games, kind of come up with that alternative way of how multiplayer works, maybe change up the physics a little bit. I'm not too sure. I did do a video on this for Forza Motorsport 7. If you guys haven't seen that, I will leave that video up as an end screen click that you can watch. If you want to go see that after this video, be sure to check it out. I do go into some of the a lot of the flaws this series has in their multiplayer. That being said, it's not as prominent in this game from what I've experienced. There is a few people that will punt you into a tree on purpose, or like just crash into you off the start. It is what it is. Not a big deal, I guess. When you get into a lobby with a lot of people who want to race, it's a lot of fun. It can be a lot of fun. Now going into the cars, this is the other big thing for Forza. You know, Forza, the map and the car selection, it's crazy. They do have a big car collection in this game. They do have a good amount of new cars. They brought in a good amount of new cars, but we lost a lot of the cars we had in the past, like Toyota and Mitsubishi. I know maybe there's a licensing issue with those two, but we've lost a lot of the cars we had in the past. That was so much fun, and the new cars we got are unique, special, but a lot of them are like. A lot of the unique cars are kind of gimmicky, and you don't have a lot of there's not many cars you want to constantly drive. There's no there's not many cars where you like want to build them and just keep driving them over and over. A lot of them are like kind of gimmick cars or like kind of weird, obscure cars, and for some people maybe that's what they want, but there's not many like normal cars you want to just drive around. A lot of them are like kind of a one-off, just for fun cars, kind of a gimmick car, you know, like the Willys Jeep, the utility vans and stuff like that, or the three-wheel cars and stuff like that. You know, going into this title, of course, it's a Forza game, so we are still limited on. We're really limited on the visual customizations that we can do. You know, we're limited. You know, certain cars have almost no visual customization, whereas other cars have a good selection. But for the most part, you know, we still don't have window stickers. We don't have anything like that as far as visual customizations, as far as wheels and stuff. And we still have the same wheel selection we did in Horizon 3. Not Forza 7. We have the same selection from Forza Horizon 3, which is less than Forza Motorsport 7 had, which is unfortunate. And as far as other car mods go, they did add the drift suspension that we did get in Forza Motorsport 7, which was amazing. It's fantastic in this game. It makes drifting so much nicer, so much more fun, and the limit has been increased so much more. There's so much more you could do as far as drifting goes now. It's a lot of fun. You can make some crazy drift cars with the new drift suspension that we got. And touching back to the visual customization, we do get wheel spacers, or like we can widen the track of the wheels now, but there's only a few cars where you can actually do that, and some cars you're limited to just doing the rear wheels, so it looks a little hokey when you look at it in the 3D space, you know, so there's that problem, but at least we do have it. It's a step forward, I think, in the right direction. Other downside is we do get barn finds in this title too, like we did in Forza Horizon 3 and 4. We get barn finds, but they're just not super exciting. At least for me, they're not exciting. The most exciting car I got was like the 22B. Very few cars. I got the Audi Quattro, which was really cool, and that's about it. Most of the other barn finds were kind of meh for the most part, but it does give you something to do throughout the map and in the game. And then we have the Forzathon events and seasonal events, which are fun. It's pretty good, but it can get repetitive and boring after a little bit when you've done them enough and you've seen some of the areas get repeated. It's not as great, but it's a good way to get credits and rewards and stuff like that, but it does get a little stale after a while. Same goes for special events. The special events are really cool, like the Halo mission, and there's one where you race an airboat down a mountain in a trophy truck. That's a lot of fun too, but it's only fun the first time. And you know, that being said, the special events are a nice little break from the back-to-back regular racing you do throughout the campaign. And of course, we do have the drift zones, which are not that great of drift sections. Kind of like the last title, there's not many good drift zones, and there's few good ones. And then a lot of them are in the dirt, and it's not as fun. Drifting in the dirt is fun the first time, but when you're trying to get that high score, it gets a little stale. I think the twisty switchback pavement drift sections are the most fun for me, in my opinion. You know, that's really about it. A lot of the stuff with Forza, it's the same. It's more of what we had before, in different content and different quantities, you know. So that's really all I have to say. The game, like I said earlier, the game feels like what Horizon 3 should have been. This game, I think, should have been Forza Horizon 3, and when 4 came out, we would have had more, but this feels like just an improvement of what 3 should have been, in my opinion. And, you know, of course, it's a Horizon game. It's fun with a lot of replayability, you know. There's a lot going on, a lot to do in the game, and there's, you know, a lot of free roam stuff you can do as well. And hopefully, I'm hoping, you know, the little bugs and glitches we have in the game. Hopefully more patches will come out to fix some of those problems. It's fun. It's a fun game overall. It's a fun game overall. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. What you guys, your opinion on Forza Horizon 4, whether you've played it or not. Let me know what you guys think of the game. If you guys think it's not that great, if it's fun, if it needs improvement, whatever. Let me know. These are my thoughts. You know, I'm just a guy on the internet. My opinions don't matter. But this is what I feel about the game. This is what it feels like. What I think of it. What I talked about is my impression. The impression this game gave me is what I just told you guys. So let me know down in the comments what you guys thought as well. Going into this, I didn't watch any reviews. I just got the game. I just played it. I didn't watch any gameplay footage of it. I just watched the trailer, and I just wanted to develop my own opinion. It was one of those games where I wanted to get in and just see for myself what the game was like without any other opinion. So this is what I think. This is without any diluting from other streamers, YouTubers, or whatever that have done a review. This is all my opinion, all reviews and opinions I came up with playing the game for myself. Anyway, guys, I do want to thank you guys for watching. Comment down below, like I said, what you guys thought of the game and what you thought of this video. Let me know if you guys like this sort of first impressions type deal where I sit down and talk with you guys what I think about the game and how the game is and stuff like that. If you guys do want to see me play games like this, like Forza and Assetto Corsa live, be sure to check out my Twitch stream. I stream about just about every day. Link will be down in the description in every video. Be sure to hit that up. Give me a follow over there, and hopefully I'll see you guys on the Twitch streams as well. Peace out, guys. Hope you all enjoy the video. Have a great rest of your day. And I love y'all. Have a good one. Peace out.